Hello one, hello all, it's your boy Scoobingo back at it again, and you know what time it is, you read the title, it's time to talk about the top 20 movies of 2019, that's right, top 20. I had so many great movies in 2019 that I had to elongate the top 10 into a top 20. Seriously, I had so many movies that I wanted to talk about, so I'm not going to leave any of them out. We're going to talk about 20 of the best movies of the year, and when I say best, I mean my favorite. This is not going by any stat or scientific definition whatsoever. This is literally just my opinion, and with that we can dive into our top 20. 20 through 11 are going to be like sort of quick, and then we can really talk about the top 10. That way I don't spend forever talking about these movies, even though I possibly could. Regardless, let's go. Number 20, The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This movie's cinematography leaps out of the screen from the first shot all the way to that very last incredible shot. Number 19, Wild Rose. I never thought a movie about a Scottish singer trying to become a country star would ever end up on my top 10 movies list of the year, but here we are. Jessie Buckley is absolutely phenomenal in this, and that ending was just way too beautiful for me to hold back any tears. Number 18, Joker. The movie that film Twitter has been going to war over ever since it came out. It's a different take on the comic book movie genre, and it has a haunting yet beautiful score, and of course, Joaquin Phoenix, as you know, steals the show. Number 17, Dolomite Is My Name. A great comeback movie for Eddie Murphy in terms of performance. He is genuinely fantastic in this role. It's full of laughs and it easily has one of the best ensembles of the year. Number 16, The Irishman. A great Scorsese film. De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci are all fantastic, and the de-aging tech is absolutely seamless. Number 15, Terminator Dark Fate. Dark Fate is Terminator's version of The Force Awakens, and I happen to really like The Force Awakens. Overall, it's a great anxiety-inducing action film, and all the characters are great. Number 14, The Lighthouse. Willem Dafoe was absolutely robbed. Let me just get that out of the way. Regardless of that, The Lighthouse is a very profound film, from the cinematography to the sound of the lighthouse to the performances to the aspect ratio. Absolutely everything about this movie will linger in your brain even after leaving the theater. Number 13, Knives Out. Rian Johnson pulled one of the most fun movies of the year out of a genre that hasn't found much success in recent years. This is a blast of a whodunit, and Daniel Craig is absolutely fantastic. Number 12, Jojo Rabbit. This is a movie that could have been ripped apart in today's cancel culture, but thankfully, most of us understand satire. Because I loved Jojo Rabbit, and I don't even like Nazis. This movie is hilariously fun in one scene, and in the very next scene it'll punch you in the gut. This little film had it all. Number 11, Marriage Story. This film is an absolutely tragic and hard-hitting emotional roller coaster that will have you sitting in a puddle of your own tears by the end of it. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver are both absolutely phenomenal in the leading roles. It's not easy to close out or wrap up a series, and 2019 definitely reminded us of that. With Game of Thrones and The Rise of Skywalker both dropping the ball, the fact that this film wraps up a 22 movie saga with multiple storylines and characters colliding, and manages to do it in style where we get a great movie and a satisfying conclusion is just absolutely incredible. Endgame is a massive blockbuster, so the epic set pieces come with it, but it takes time to get us there, with precious time dedicated to characters that we've been watching for years now. Time to watch these characters come full circle. This is one of the MCU's most emotional movies in my opinion, with an Oscar-worthy score from Silvestri that elevates the numerous special moments in this film. This is such a different movie compared to the rest of Tarantino's filmography. Whereas his other films, there's just a lot of people dying left and right in the most bloodiest of ways. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is kind of treated like a biopic, and it's really just people living their lives. And I mean that almost literally, because the film just kind of follows these characters around for like the first hour or so, and it takes its time to get to what the movie really is about. But once we do get there, this movie is a thrilling ride. For the last 45 minutes or so, I was on the edge of my seat, and mostly because I expected the movie to go in a certain direction, and that based on Tarantino's older movies, such as Kill Bill, where you kind of just expect things to just go off the handle. And I mean that in terms of violence. Brad Pitt absolutely hijacks this movie, and he is rightfully getting much love during award season. The main discourse of this film was its structure. The story isn't exactly linear, and it constantly switches from the movie's current time and the past to tell the story of these four sisters. I find it baffling that people find it hard to follow. There's a distinct difference in both time periods, from the makeup and hairstyling to the difference in color for each time period. Which brings me to this point. I cannot believe that Greta Gerwig was snubbed in the Best Director category. I think there's a good argument to say that Little Women is one of the best directed movies of the year. Certainly one of the most interestingly directed movies of 2019. This is a sharply adapted screenplay based on Lulu Wang's real-life story. I mean, that fact alone absolutely blows me away. For a premise that's so dour, this film is so tender and full of joy, and it's surprisingly very funny. This is a film that both warms your heart and smashes it into 1,000 pieces at the same time. And at the center of the tug-of-war between the two feelings is Awkwafina, who delivers a fantastic yet subtle role. She's the perfect anchor for us, the audience, because she sees this cultural practice the same way that we do. Every time I see this movie, it's impossible for me to not get sentimental. There's so much pure love expressed in this film, and yet there's so much that's unsaid, that by the end of this film, the only thing you'll want to do afterwards is call your grandma. The Safdie brothers owe me some Xanax after watching this movie. From beginning to end, this movie does not let up. It's as if they keep trying to one-up the tension every 15 or 20 minutes. This to me is easily Adam Sandler's best performance. He is absolutely phenomenal in this role, where he's constantly on the ropes due to his own actions. The score is mesmerizing and it helps up the anxiety in the movie. New York City has never sounded this accurate because everyone is so loud and they talk over each other, and it creates this chaotic feeling, which again adds to the tension. Seriously, the fact that Uncut Gems was shut out of the Oscars is perplexing. Score, sound mixing, and editing, and Adam Sandler should have been nominated, at the very least. Booksmart is easily the funniest movie of the year, but it also has a lot of heart. The easiest comparison is Superbad because of the humor and setting, but it's full of its own ideas and flair that this movie has to go down as one of the best high school party movies of all time, in my opinion. Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein are both great, and their chemistry is absolutely marvelous. And Billie Lourd steals the show. Every time she's on screen, she absolutely steals the show. Olivia Wilde brings so many wild ideas to this film, like the drug trip doll scene. It's never boring, and you never know what to expect from the way that the story is told. And it's helped by an amazing use of music, making the movie feel like it's full of energy throughout. Skillfully directed by Sam Mendes, made to look like a one-take movie, and it's pulled off in style. Even though I was looking for the cuts, I was still blown away by how seamless they were able to make it all look. And they couldn't have picked a better DP. So many gorgeous shots in this film thanks to Roger Deakins. The chase scene, with the flares in particular, was so jaw-dropping. And the film is blessed with a great score by Thomas Newman, who knows when to bring the score to an explosive volume to add chaos. But even when the characters are just traveling, like in the No Man's Land scene, you still feel the tension because of the music. The way we were constantly following the characters made me feel like I was playing a video game, and I mean that in a good way. This movie made it impossible for me to take my eyes off the screen, and I honestly felt the chills during the last 20 minutes of this gorgeous film. I went into Parasite with gargantuan expectations, and I still walked out completely blown away by this film. This is a masterpiece of a film skillfully conducted by Bong Joon-ho, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Seriously, everything you've heard about this film is completely true, and yet I still struggle to find the right words to describe just how incredible this movie really is. Simply put, it's a masterclass in storytelling. Every 10 or 15 minutes or so, I kept thinking to myself, wow, this is amazing, this is incredible. And if that weren't enough, this movie at a point flips itself on its head, so I'm sitting there with my mind blown, and I had to deal with another hour of this anxiety-inducing story. By the end, my brain was just completely melted by what I just witnessed. This film is a thrill ride with so much to say about social class, and just the little details like when we're in the rich family's house and it's mostly sunny and the colors are vibrant, versus when we literally go down the social class stairs and everything is dull and dirty. Lastly, the performances in this film are incredible, a great ensemble, and there is no weak link. Parasite is a genuine masterpiece. Brad Pitt is rightfully getting praise for his performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I feel like his performance in Ad Astra has completely gone under the radar. It's a very subtle performance similar to Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner 2049 or First Man. The movie isn't a space adventure like it's advertised, it's a slow-paced, deep character study. And for someone who didn't watch the trailers, I was able to walk away from this film with so much more than what a simple space adventure could offer. When we meet Roy McBride, he is literally on top of the world. And when he falls due to an explosion in those first 10 minutes, his heart rate never goes over a certain level, making it seem like he's perfect. But as this movie goes on and we understand his mental state, we find him very damaged, making his journey to Neptune a literal one and one he must make to confront things he never could so that he could better himself. And even though the setting is mostly in space, I think this is a very grounded and relatable story that really moved me. Midsommar is far and away my favorite movie of 2019, and if you knew me personally, you probably already knew that. I went to see this film alone, and man, I'm glad I did. I left that theater completely blown away, and I didn't want to speak to anyone for like an hour. This is not a film where you walk out after one viewing and give it a number rating right away. Midsommar needs at least 2 or 3 viewings to fully understand its underlying messages. I mean, well, that was the case for me. Award shows typically ignore horror, but in a year where Florence Pugh was involved in 3 great films, Midsommar is her best performance of 2019. It's a shame that people will walk out of this film thinking it wasn't scary, but what I love about it is that it's not concerned about that. This film is much deeper than terrible and pointless jump scares. It's a focus on a relationship and Pugh's character first, and then the horror elements follow after. The film is gorgeous all the way through with some breathtaking scenery and cinematography. Even when things on screen are hard to watch due to its disturbing nature, this film still somehow makes it pleasing to the eye. What this film was able to pull off while under the disguise of a horror film is outstanding, and as far as 2019 goes, it was the film that left the biggest impression on me. So there you have it, my 20 favorite movies of 2019. The list itself took me forever to make. I was gonna do a top 10, but then I was like, wow, I'm missing so many movies that I wanted to say something about. I don't want to leave anyone out, so I made a top 20. There's been just so many movies this year that I like genuinely loved. Regardless, that is that. Top 20 of 2019. 2019 is over. We are into 2020, which sounds so weird. If you made it this far, leave a comment with your favorite movie of 2019, and also leave the movie that you're most looking forward to in 2020. My favorite of 2019 was obviously Midsommar, and if I had to say something off the top of my head for 2020, I would probably say Dunes or Tenet. But that all being said, you know the drill. Subscribe if you're new. You can leave a like if you liked the video. Thank you for subscribing. I'm Scubinho from the 5th Row, and I'm gone.